So the big question of the day, how do I sell my home without a realtor? We're going to dive into that in just a moment. My name's Rico. I'm a realtor with eXp in the greater Vancouver area. And with that said, I would never advise anyone to take on this process without proper guidance and expertise. Selling your home on your own means that you're taking on a significant risk, and it's important to know exactly what you're stepping into. That said, I'm happy to walk you through the steps and considerations, especially in today's market, so that way you can make an informed decision. Consider this to be a crash course. I'll outline 10 key things to keep in mind while you're considering selling your home without representation. So that way, if you're a for sale by owner, a do-it-yourself seller, FSBO, as we say in the industry, yes, it can be done. But again, full disclosure, my goal here is to help you understand both the opportunities and the challenges before you take that leap. There are several risks to consider, and I do want to make sure to cover those first before I'll guide you through the steps that you'll want to take. First, the majority of homes sold in Canada involve realtors. FSBO transactions remain a small fraction. Most people who are considering doing this do so to save on realtor commissions, which is fair. Sellers who go without a realtor would often save between 4 and 5% of the sales price, which could lead to a savings of $15,000 or more, depending on the property. There are services like for sale by owner that offer flat fee listings, but many of these services lack the reach that you get on the MLS, which is controlled by the Canadian Real Estate Association, CREA. So, right from the start, what you'll face is less visibility and a lot more work. Without the exposure that you get on the MLS, sellers have to rely on private listings or classifieds, which will dramatically reduce the amount of buyers that you're able to reach. Then you risk pricing the property incorrectly. Without access to a comparative market analysis, a CMA, as a seller, you do risk overpricing the home, which could lead to long delays, or underpricing, which could lead to you losing thousands. And as a seller, you do need to comply with provincial laws, including disclosure of latent defects. Mistakes here could lead to lawsuits or financial penalties. Then the negotiation process can be a challenge, handling multiple offers, deposits, financing conditions without professional guidance could lead to deals collapsing or a delayed in closing. Then there are security concerns that a lot of people don't consider. If you're selling a property on your own, you need to personally vet potential buyers, manage showings, handle inquiries, which increases your chances of getting scammed or working with an unserious buyer. Finally, you should consider your stress and time. Managing marketing, showings, paperwork, negotiations alone can be overwhelming, especially if you're a first time seller. Now, with all that said, if you're still considering selling your property without representation, this is how you do it. The first thing to look at is your curb appeal. Your property needs to be attractive to people before they even pull into the driveway. So simple things like cleaning up the exterior, taking stuff away, moving the car out of the driveway, pressure washing, repainting, all that goes a long way. You also want to trim the hedges, mow the lawn, kill the weeds. All that stuff is important to improve your curb appeal, and make the home pop. Now, you do want to make sure that you manage the experience that people have when they come into the home for the first time, because first impressions are everything. So, how the property is staged or presented helps buyers envision themselves in the space by removing distractions and highlighting the property's best features. Simple steps like clearing countertops, minimizing personal items, rearranging furniture to maximize the flow and make rooms feel larger, brighter, and more inviting. If you want to take this a step further, Professional staging companies, they'll bring in curated furniture, decor, and lighting that aligns with, buyer preferences. Their expertise not only elevates the look of the home, but also creates an emotional connection that can lead to faster sales and higher offers. In fact, stage homes consistently outperform unstaged ones in both time on the market and final sales price. Needless to say, staging is a smart investment if you're a seller who wants to stand out in today's competitive market. Now, we can all agree that we live in a digital world. And the reality is that the buyer's first impression of your property is often going to be online. While, yes, you can take photos on your phone or film videos there, professional photography and videography elevates your listing by showing the home in its best light. And I mean that literally, highlighting visuals, high quality visuals, highlight space, flow, and design in ways that stand out against competing listings, often making the difference between a casual stroll or someone actually stopping what they're doing and booking a showing. And here's a bonus, just to complement this, I would strongly advise getting the property professionally measured for accuracy and square footage and room dimensions, because this is going to build the buyer's confidence, but also protect you as a seller from potential disputes. Together, these services create a polished, trustworthy presentation that maximizes buyer interest and helps your property shine in a competitive market. And it is a very competitive market. It's December 15th today, 2025. We have over 14,000 active listings on the MLS. And one of the most critical roles that a realtor plays is ensuring your property stands out in a crowded space. An effective marketing campaign is going to be multifaceted, combining digital, print, and telemarketing strategies to maximize exposure. This means professional advertisements across all major social media platforms, eye-catching brochures and flyers distributed strategically to engage the community, and consistent follow-up with potential buyers who've toured the property. Buyers are often going to go on a tour where they'll visit, 3 or 4 homes in a single day, and they may search for weeks before they make a decision, sometimes months. So the question then becomes, how will your property stay top of mind? The answer often is in your realtor's ability to craft and execute a comprehensive marketing plan that not only attracts attention, but also builds lasting impressions, ensuring your home is remembered long after the tour. I run a 20-point marketing system to help my clients get top dollar for their property. And part of that is going to be the way that we build the listing price. So one of the more important steps that your realtor will take is to build a CMA, a comparative market analysis. While automated online evaluation tools exist, they often fall short because they can't account for the quality of your finishes, your upgrades, the true condition of your property in comparison to others. A thorough CMA that involves visiting similar homes in the area that are for sale, analyzing recent sales, and even speaking directly with other listing agents to gain valuable insights. The key part here is going to be being objective. Your realtor would also provide you with key metrics like the average days on the market, sales to listing ratios, average sale prices in the neighborhood. So together, all that data paints a clear picture of market trends and helps you establish an accurate competitive listing price, ensuring your property stands out to serious buyers and doesn't linger on the market. Now, if you've priced a property correctly, you've got great photos, you're showed well online, you've got a strong marketing campaign built, the next step is going to be arranging showings. Most buyers will arrive accompanied with their agent. If you're working with a realtor, typically they're going to advise you to step away during these appointments to create a comfortable environment where buyers can speak freely and to protect you from unintentionally saying something that could weaken your negotiating position later on. If you attempt to manage showings yourself, it's vital to remember that the buyer's agent represents the buyer, not you, and anything that you disclose to them may be used against you in negotiations. Beyond that, coordinating showings can be logistically challenging, especially if you're employed. And you may need to be available at a short notice in order to meet a client and show the property. A realtor's expertise ensures that showings are handled professionally, efficiently, and with your best interest in mind, keeping the process smooth and stress-free. Now, this is where you really want to consider your expertise because the negotiation process can be adversarial. If you're handling this yourself, remember you're dealing with a professional negotiator. Personally, I like to play ball. And I like to think I'm pretty good, but if you put me up against the worst player in the NBA, I'm talking about the guy on the bench who's never even touched the court in a game. I have the awareness to recognize he's going to destroy me. I'm going to lose that game. And like I said, you really want to consider expertise if you're planning on selling a home by yourself, because often for sale by owner transactions sell for significantly less than they would had they used a professional realtor. Okay, so now you've completed all the showings. The next critical step is going to be the contract. And this is where sellers often will underestimate the complexity of this process because the buyer's agent will draft the contract. And it's important to remember that they represent the buyer, not you. They can't advise you on clauses, disclosures, or the implications of what you're signing. That responsibility will fall entirely on you. Every contract should be read thoroughly as it governs the sale of what is more than likely your greatest asset. And most agreements are going to be written to protect the buyer with standard clauses such as inspections, appraisals, but other may not be as familiar to you and could carry significant consequences. So without professional guidance, you risk agreeing to terms that could, cost you financially or limit your options later on. Ensuring you understand each and every clause and its impact is essential to protecting yourself, your interests, and achieving a smooth and successful sale. So do not sign anything you do not understand. In Vancouver, at least, it is common for buyers to include a 7 to 10 day subject removal period in their offer. This window is going to give them time to complete their due diligence and walk away from the contract, if they're not satisfied. So during this period, a professional inspector will assess the property's condition and identify any necessary repairs, while the buyer's lender will often send the appraiser to determine the home's value before approving any financing. So it's important to remember that appraiser works for the bank, not for you. And their evaluation is strictly to protect the lender's interest. And the inspector, of course, works for the buyer, whose job is to find deficiencies in the home. This stage also provides the buyer's agent with leverage to reopen negotiations, whether by requesting repairs, upgrades, or even a pricing reduction to move the deal forward. Final stage, in regards to selling your home, transfer of title and closing. And this process is primarily going to be managed by your lawyer or your notary public. Their role to ensure the property can be transferred with full and equitable title, free of any liens or outstanding issues. Once all legal checks are complete, you have to sign the necessary paperwork, officially transferring ownership to the buyers. At that point, the buyers become the new legal owners of the property. And you'll coordinate a time to hand over keys and so forth. This steps is going to be the mark of successful completion of the transaction. And there you have it. Now you have a crash course on selling a property on your own. But remember, this is likely your most valuable asset. And I strongly recommend working with a realtor to ensure that your best interests are protected throughout the process. Now, I hope you found this information helpful. And if you have any questions, I encourage you to reach out to me directly. My contact details are in the description. And if ultimately you do decide to move forward without representation, I sincerely wish you success in the sale of your home. Have yourself a great day.